Hello, my name is Harry Clark, and we're going to talk about response to intervention and multi-tier systems of support, RTI and MTSS. As a person with just 2 years of educational experience, I've come to find out this year that RTI and MTSS is very critical and vital to my day-to-day operation with my students. It can help me identify those students who have barriers or are lacking some academical skills to help them flourish in their educational careers at an early age. Training that is provided, technical support, and support to institutions and districts on the diversity of MTSS and RTI applications are subject to the data and the reliability of standards aligned with the instructions across the tiers evaluating MTSS implementation, universal design of learning. Numerous of districts describe the growth in contributors of knowledge at 82%, skills at 90%, improvement in RTI and MTSS implementation at 89%, and 90% improvement in skills. Improvement in MTSS implementation was 89%, database problem solving determination was at 88%, and the use of RTI and MTSS entitlement purposes was at 79%. Many of the districts here in the state of Florida reported that the improvement of student conclusions as a result of working with RTI and MTSS was at a 91%. These stats are as current as 2021 Florida Department of Education. Every day I have a group of students of various ages who need special services. My concerns as a new teacher are that many of my children are going to be misunderstood and not receive the services that they need. Many teachers now are starting to implement RTI and MTSS. However, many of them do not understand what RTI and MTSS are utilized for or why we even have to do the MTSS and RTI evaluations. Many new teachers are concerned because they don't know or don't want to know how to implement these because it's just adding more to what they have already been required to do as a teacher here in the state of Florida. Response to intervention and multi-tier systems of support can be utilized to ensure that the students receive the proper assistance to succeed in their education at an early stage of their career. Response to intervention and MTSS is an educational necessity that is utilized in the educational realm to provide effective and high-quality education for those students who are lacking academically or are academically delayed or struggling with various academic goals in the classroom. Basically, some of the students are needing to fill some of the gaps that they're just lacking in because somewhere they lack comprehension of the particular benchmark or standards. Especially after COVID caused many of our students to be homeschooled for over 2 years, and now they're back in a typical classroom environment. We're finding out that many of these children are having some difficulties with the simplest things such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. However, through MTSS and RTI, we can bridge those gaps and get those students back on course. Many times when students feel that they cannot do the basic things such as adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, they tend to have behavior problems. But through MTSS and RTI, we can determine if these are just behavior problems or a lack of skills of knowledge and help bridge those gaps to get those students the help that they need. The value of the execution of RTI and MTSS is related to the improved probability of education and interventions leading to the productivity of student results. Thus, schools need to observe not only students' results, but also what means evaluations, teaching, interventions, and database problem solvers are being put into place. Effective execution is inspired by various elements within and around the school structure. As a gauge of the school level application of an RTI or MTSS, this means emphasizing on the necessary actions and activities to efficiently implement and maintain the significant components of RTI and MTSS with the reliability. Again, if a student is not giving you 100% accuracy, then you will not have necessary reliable information. Sometimes you have to look at other things of their base scores that they started with and how they're progressing in order to determine if the information that you're receiving is reliable. If you do not get reliable information, you cannot sustain a decent plan to help this child or that child encounter the needs and services that he or she would need to be successful in education. The important components of RTI and MTSS that will be discussed throughout this paper are the different tiers and the process and how to implement those. So far, I can tell you that I am starting to gain much knowledge about RTI and MTSS from what I'm starting to read. Today, after my RTI and MTSS meeting with my leadership team, my guidance counselor approached me and stated, "I really misunderstood you and underestimated you today. I thought you were going to just come to the meeting and that was going to be it for you. You really have some knowledge of the MTSS and RTI, and I can see that you really want to learn. As a new teacher who is still trying to understand the educational system and how it works, it can be frightening and challenging at times. However, this capstone paper will help me to improve my knowledge of the RTI and MTSS and what I should be doing with the information that I gather from my students." My principal stated during the meeting that she never realized that what she was doing was just giving us teachers something to pass out to our students and not really telling us how to implement it or how to use the data to help benefit our students. When you have a teacher that wants to do his or her best, I believe as a leader, you should invest into that person. Well, the same goes for RTI and MTSS with our students. If you have a child who is having difficulty learning, to improve his or her learning, it is best to invest in them by getting them the proper services that they need. MTSS and RTI have been some services that I've started to implement in my classroom, and I can start to see productivity. Database problem solving is the process used to make an educated decision within the RTI and MTSS. Different models of RTI and MTSS exist, but common is the four-step problem-solving model that can be used to identify those students who could use special services. When we look at the four-step process, the first step is defining what students should know and be able to do at their current grade level. The second step is identifying possible reasons why students are not meeting expectations. This third step is develop and implement a plan based on the evidence-based strategies to address why students are not meeting expectations. The fourth and final step is evaluate the plan's effectiveness. Problem solving can be used to address systematic barriers to a school and a district-wide implementation of the practices associated with an effective RTI MTSS. In conclusion, the objective of the RTI and MTSS is to develop instructional assessments at each level to increase each individual student's results. The problem-solving procedure is applied specifically to Tier 2 teachings to accommodate fundamental elements of education for services provided to each student and to develop a large ratio of students achieving a benchmark. However, for those that are in Tier 3, those problem-solving methods is utilized to establish regular procedures that are paired to those in needs of small group students. Small groups sometimes consist of those students who not necessarily need one-on-one, but they just need that little bit more attention, 30 or 40 minutes a day to help bridge those gaps. Specifically, severe interventions sometimes come out of Tier 3, where those students are pulled at 45 minutes additional time, giving them either additional help or giving them additional understanding and help bridging those gaps. From there, you consistently keep track of these students every 8 weeks, implementing new plans and making a discovery on whether these children are receiving the proper help or if they need additional help. Within this capstone, I want to take the time to understand and realize how important MTI and RTI and MTSS are to my students so that I can give them a better education. I hope that this video has been very helpful, and I encourage you, if you are an educator or a parent, please read up on RTI and MTSS.